Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here with a video for Hero Arts. In my video today, I'll be creating this card, which features some stamps and a stencil from the new Starry Nights catalog. We're going to start off with this new stamp called Star Galaxy to create what I like to call a panel card. It's a little bit different than a normal top or side folding card. It's still standard size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but the back area of the card is just a cardstock panel that doesn't actually open or close. The card area is just this small piece that we're going to end up adhering directly on top of the background area. So to begin, I'm just going to use the smaller cardstock piece first and take the stamp and ink it up with the Soft Stone Shadow ink. This stamp has a lot of solid area, and the soft stone ink works great for images like this because it's not a very dark ink. Especially when it dries back after you've stamped with it, it's just a nice subtle color and works perfectly for these type of background images. So I went ahead and completely covered the stamp with it, and I'm just going to lay my little white panel on top. And we're not going to get the whole image, as you can see, because the panel is a little bit smaller than the actual stamp, but you just kind of want to center it into the center area so that you pick up some of the stars that are around the edge, because that's the look we're going for. We kind of want it to look like the sky, but we do want a little bit of the stars to peek through on the edges. So once I take it off there, you can kind of see it's a little bit hard to see on video because this ink is definitely a lighter color, but it's got this great textury finish in the inside, and then it has a few of the white stars kind of all around the edges. So just a really fun look for this tiny piece. And now we're going to try and mimic the same stamped design on this larger piece. But because the stamp is a little bit smaller than the background, we can't just give it one stamp and be done. We kind of have to get creative here. So what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and inking the stamp once again with the same soft stone ink, and I'm just taking a baby wipe and kind of dabbing the bottom area of that stamp. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want the star images to show up, because it's going to end up being in the center of the card. And I also kind of want to soften the edge so that when we stamp it on here and take the paper off, we don't have a hard line running down the center of that piece of paper, kind of making it obvious that the stamped image ended there. So you can kind of see there that it just kind of tapers off and just kind of fades out as it goes into the center area of the paper, and that's what we want to see. So now I'm going to go ahead and ink this up again and do it the exact same way. Put the ink on and then take that baby wipe and kind of dab away the color at the bottom again. But this time when we stamp it, we're going to take the white piece of paper and flip it around so that we're stamping on the other end, which has no image on it yet. And we're just going to go ahead and lay that on there again. Kind of position it so you make sure that you get all the star images, but it doesn't have to be perfect. That's what's great about a background stamp like this. The edges aren't completely linear. It's just kind of gives you that very realistic type looking background where it kind of just fades all over the place. So you can see now that I've done both ends and I have this center area of white. I'm not concerned about the middle because we're going to end up covering that anyway, but we do want to be able to see stars on the outside pieces, which is what we're going to see. So I'm going ahead and adding ink to that stamp again, but just in the corner area, because we want to just pick up the star pattern and stamp that into the white area that we kind of have left over there. And it looks terrible, and the center area looks really terrible, but we're not going to worry about that because as it dries back, it's going to look a lot more even, and we're going to cover the center. So we'll set that aside to dry and work on the next part of the card. I just have a white panel of Neenah cardstock, and I'm taking lemon yellow ink and kind of using the edge of the ink pad to wipe that on, just to get all those fun lines and patterns in that inked spot, just because we're going to put some stars on there, and I kind of like the texture that all those lines in the ink add to that. Now for this one here, we're going to rub it on, so you can see, depending on how you apply it to the paper, what type of finish you get once it's finished. The soft vanilla, we kind of ran in a circular motion, and it's a much softer blended type inked look. So now I have this stencil, which is the Stars Pattern stencil. This is also from the new Starry Nights catalog. And I'm going to use a pencil and trace the image on the back piece of this inked piece that we've just done. I'm putting the moon on the soft vanilla, and then I'm also tracing the 2 stars on the lemon yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and cut those 3 out. And since the pencil's on the back, you're not going to see any of those lines or even know that we used a pencil and did any type of tracing at all. It's just going to look like we die cut a moon and 2 star shapes. So you can see there now I've went ahead, cut them out, and they're just kind of sitting there on the panel for right now while I figure out the sentiment. So the sentiment stamp is from the Shoot for the Moon clear stamp set. And it's a little bit longer than I wanted. I wanted it to kind of have the first part of the saying on this little front piece and then have the inside saying on the inside. So I just cut the bottom off of the stamp, which is the For You. Don't worry, you can still use it as it was intended if you don't want to always have them separated. Since they're clear, they easily fit back together, no problem at all. And now I'm just going ahead, I've stamped that on there, and I'm just kind of figuring out where I want the big die cut, or not, they look die cut, but the stencil cut pieces. And I have those kind of just sitting there while I go ahead and stamp some of the stars from the Shoot for the Moon stamp set onto the background with the same soft vanilla ink as we use for the moon. And there's no pattern, I'm just kind of stamping them randomly all around, just filling in some of the blank space and tying the moon and the stars into the background image. The stars, it's very subtle, and they just kind of blend everything together and make it look like everything kind of belongs together. And then once I have that done, I'm going ahead and adhering the stars and the moon. The stars were adhered directly to the white piece, and then the moon I put on some foam adhesive to kind of lift that off of the card a little bit. And then I took my Wink of Stella clear marker to go ahead and add some glitter onto the stars and the moon. And I also kind of dabbed it around the background piece onto the yellow stars that we went ahead and stamped with that longer star stamp. So now I have this piece done. It's already set to go. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this directly onto the gray card piece that we have here. And this is just cut slightly smaller. You can see there's not a huge margin around it. I just wanted just enough for the gray to peek through, but I wanted the main part of this card to be that whole image. So I didn't want a ton of the gray, just enough to separate it from the background piece when we adhere it on. So now I have that all adhered on. I'm just going to take the For You that we cut off of that clear stamp, use the Hero Hues black ink once again, and go ahead and stamp this directly on the inside of the card. And then there's still lots of room for you to write your message, even though this is a smaller size card than what you would normally have. So now that that's done and my background piece is all, the inks had time to absorb into this larger piece, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this onto the panel. And like I said, you can see in the center area where you have those big darker splotchy sections. We're not even going to worry about that because this little card is going to get adhered directly over top and you're not even going to see that. So now that I have that adhered, I'm going to add adhesive to the card. You want to make sure you put a good amount of adhesive on, just because this is the area that whoever receives this card will open and close. And then just center it on the center area, and you have a fun, different type card that's a little unexpected, with a background that kind of starts in the middle and then spreads out to the outside, and looks like you stamped it completely with one stamp, even though we know we used a smaller stamp for the larger area. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.